Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. We talk a lot of football and 3 and out, but there's always something to bet on. The NBA's in full swing, college hoops literally started Monday, and even the NHL is heating up. So if you haven't tried your first bet yet, just download the Hard Rock Bet app, and there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal sportsbook whenever you're in Florida. And it also is live in Arizona, Ohio, Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, coming soon in more states near you. So whenever you're listening, just open the app and check out what you've got on any given day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today and make your first deposit. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Hopefully a little better than the Dallas Cowboys, because Jacoby Brissett might have officially Wally pipped Kyler Murray, because he played really good tonight, and the Arizona Cardinals dominate the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll dive into that. We'll dive into the Dallas Cowboys. Not quite sure what that was. I mean, that was rough. For a split second, I didn't think I could find it. Then I realized that we had Hulu, but we didn't have the right subscription, so I had to get on my wife's subscription. We had to sign in on her setting. So we'll dive into that situation as a loyal YouTube TV guy. A bunch of other stuff going around the NFL. Some thoughts on Howie Roseman, a.k.a. He's just like the trade machine. I mean, he literally made another one today. Who knows? By the time you're listening to this, he's probably made another one. So keep an eye on Howie Roseman if you have available talent. And then some other stuff going on in the NFL. We had some major injuries, trade deadline. But before we dive in, I also need you to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to our content. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube page. It's also a podcast. Never miss anything we do 3 and out, football-wise. We're coming live after every game. And a huge reason we can do that is because you guys have been very loyal listeners and loyal viewers for a long time now. That, part of the reason I went to the Ryder Cup, whatever that was, a month and a half ago, was to meet the people associated with Zone, as you can see on my hat, Zone pouches, who I think we almost did a deal with them like a couple years ago, and I originally got some of their nicotine pouches, and I remember having them, and they had some incredible flavors. I remember they have this dragon fruit flavor that they sell here in Arizona that I've been using consistently for like 2 years. And one of our sales guys, who our sales team at the Volume is incredible. I've been very lucky since doing this, and having been in the audio space now for 10 years. Like, you're only as strong as the people selling your show. No matter if you got millions of people listening and great distribution, if you don't have people that can sell the show, then it's a passion project with a lot of people paying attention. So the people behind the scenes are like, we got something. They are interested. I'm like, I'm interested. Let's make this happen. We went out there. We had some cocktails. We had some laughs. And they jumped on board. So it's a really, really big deal to have the Zone pouches as a big, big part of the podcast. They've done a lot of stuff with golf. I'm going to start integrating them in some of the golf content, and obviously right here be a big part of our football coverage as we, it's not the home stretch because we still got 2+ months and then the playoffs. We got a long way to go. We're not even like to the dog days. I mean, hell, I don't even think half the teams in the league have had a bye week. So it's really, really exciting. I'm really fired up to have them part of it. And listen, if you like nicotine pouches, these guys are it. So if you're as competitive as I am, you're always looking for something to help you stay dialed in. And for me, that thing is Zone nicotine pouches. You won't catch me without one, a can. I'm actually out. I need to go tomorrow to the Chevron right down the street And my go-to is usually dragon fruit or citrus, especially when I'm playing golf. Not to mention 20 pouches per can versus 15 that the other guys offer. So choose Zone and dominate the day. Use the promo code 3and out20 on NicoKick.com for 20% off at checkout. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Underage sale prohibited. So let's dive right in again. I am really fired up to have these guys on board, and none of this can happen without you guys. Just like none of tonight could have happened without Jacoby Brissett. I think we need to call a spade a spade. A lot of mystery surrounding this situation. A tweet from several days ago from our main man, Shefty, who says Jacoby's going to start. Kyler will be available for some plays. And then it comes out today. Kyler's in street clothes, so he's not available. And then Jacoby goes out 21 to 31, couple touchdowns, well over 200 yards, and is just objectively a better quarterback right now than Kyler Murray. But sometimes, and this, the cat's out of the bag, we used to what's he alluding to? These broadcasters talk to the coaches. It's why it's such a big deal on Tom Brady not having direct access, though it's very easy. All these guys, the offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinators, the head coaches want to talk to him so he can get information, and obviously the players too. But when Troy Aikman opened up the broadcast and said, the offensive coordinator says that he feels really comfortable with Jacoby being able to go under center, something he likes doing, a.k.a. something Kyler does not like doing and doesn't fit in this offense. This is why I have been a proponent of hire or keeping Brian Daboll. Because anytime it comes to taking a job, becoming a head coach in the NFL or in college football is a little different because you're constantly churning over your roster. But when Jonathan Gannon got the job, I bet all he said is can't wait to coach Kyler, can't wait to coach Kyler. I'll do whatever it takes to coach Kyler. His offensive coordinator saying the same things. They've had enough. And I don't blame them for saying that, and I don't blame them for trying to figure this out with Kyler Murray. This experiment hasn't worked. Because one thing's pretty evident, and listen, the Cowboys roster isn't that great. But relative to the Cardinals, there's a big gap between the two. If you just remove the quarterbacks, because typically Dak is a better player than Kyler, but if Jacoby is going to play at Dak's level, or like tonight, outplay him, so if you just go, the quarterbacks cancel each other out or anything, advantage for the Cardinals, they're better everywhere else. I mean, comparing defensive lines tonight, not even close. Sweat was all over Dak all night long. Walter Nolan made his debut. I probably going to be a pretty good player. Obviously, Calais Campbell, legendary guy, was making plays at the end of the game. They got Collins, the former stand-up linebacker, who they've kind of put much more on the line and is now he had an awesome pass rush tonight. Obviously, guys like Budda Baker, Trey McBride, who has come alive. Whenever you draft a player high, right? And I remember a buddy in the NFL told me when I was like, who do you think Monty's going to draft? Is he going to take Marvin or is he going to take Malik Neighbors? Because they were taking a wide receiver. And he's like, this was a couple months before the draft. So probably near or right around free agency. So the combine had already taken place. He's like, he's 100% taking Marvin Harrison because it's the safer pick. A lot of people thought if you went throughout the NFL, Malik Neighbors, from a talent standpoint, explosion standpoint, his ceiling's higher than Marvin. But there was some risk there, right? He's just was a little bit more of a wild card. And the guy that described it to me was like, Monty's not coloring outside the lines here. He's going to try to hit a double. But when you try to hit a double, there's no such thing in the NFL. So through the first year, it's like, what is going on? I saw a headline today of Marvin Harrison Sr. talking a bunch of crap about the offense. Well, maybe it's not the offense. Maybe it was the quarterback, which Kyler and Marvin clearly have no rapport. Jacoby comes in. Trey McBride still looks fantastic, but who starts eating? Marvin Harrison. Career night. 20 catches? No, 7. This is, whatever. He's been in the league a year and a half. His career high for catches is 7, and that happened tonight with Jacoby Brissett. So the Kyler Murray experiment, to me, is over. I don't know if it'll be a hard or soft benching, but I think as long as Jacoby Brissett is healthy, he will continue to start for the Arizona Cardinals. And I saw a lot of people, I by the time you're listening to this, he's not going to get traded. No one's trading for that contract. I don't even think anyone has the cap space. But even this offseason, and I'm no capologist, I'd have to get Roseman or one of those type guys on the phone to even begin to understand how this truly all works. Like cap hits, how they translate when they're traded, the dead cap acceleration, all that stuff. I don't pretend to be an expert. But I do know his numbers are really large. And I also know that his production is not very large anymore. And let's face it, one thing that's evident tonight, it's easy for Jacoby to see. And I think, and listen, Kyler is an exceptional athlete, an exceptional talent. I mean, huge arm, can throw bombs, has a strong arm, but accuracy and just overall ability to see from within the pocket is difficult when you're 5'9". And you watch tonight, and Jacoby is just a big guy sitting there, can see everything. And then obviously he's delivering the ball pretty well. So when you look at the two guys, if you put Kyler Murray's physical traits in Jacoby, you probably have, a top 5 player. But that's not how it works. But I do know this. When you're coaching for your job and there's desperation, you're going to go with what's working. This guy's already been paid the money, and it hasn't worked out. But I also think when you look ahead to the offseason, I believe it's more likely that Kyler Murray would be cut this offseason than someone would facilitate a trade given his cap number. Because to me, Kyler Murray's like a $15, $20 million quarterback, not a guy making the type of money he's making. If he was cut tomorrow and was a free agent or a free agent going into March 15th, what type contract would he get? My guess would be a 1-year deal. So I think especially like this type stuff is not good for your market. Is not good for your branding of being this very, very talented player. Being talented, that type lingo works when you're Caleb Williams in year 2. It's like, yeah, I gotta figure out this talent and become a good player. It's much harder when you've been in the NFL for as long as Kyler has. So I think, listen, we all operate at different speeds. Not everyone is Andrew Luck ready to go from the jump. But we've had long enough to know, I've watched enough football to go, Jacoby just Wally pipped him. So don't ever expect to see Kyler, at least in the near future. I don't know how they will propaganda, throw out their angle and spin to this. Because, listen, you're sensitive. You don't want to look like you're crushing players. Like coaches and GMs in 2025 are very sensitive to that. And I understand. And I think they tried to almost like a trial balloon. They had Schefter throw it out there. It's like, then he backed it up. Now it's over. But like I said, I don't think this was an upset tonight. If the Cardinals are going to get good quarterback play, they're better than Dallas. They're winning this game in Dallas, in Arizona, on a neutral field, like 7 or 8 times out of 10. They are much more talented. Stuckey and I have been talking about this. They're 3 or 4 plays away from having a completely reversed record. They easily could be 5-2, or 5-3, or 6-2. Right? They have been in all these games, and tonight was the first time that they controlled it from the jump, beside the Titans game, which they blew. But they didn't blow this thing because ultimately Dallas wasn't that good. And listen, I think we have to acknowledge, one, the NFC East is in shambles. Right? You got the Philadelphia Eagles, who are just making trades every day and are going to win 12 to 14 games and win this division by potentially 5 or 6 games. I mean, is there a chance that another team in the NFC East doesn't get to 8 wins? Right? To me, Dallas, best case is 8, but you watch tonight, all of a sudden that defense, like, they're an injury away. They could be 6-11 because your offense is just going to dominate every game, and their defense is horrendous. The Commanders are done. Put a fork in them. And obviously the Giants have been done. So there's a chance that the second best record in this division is 7-10. Maybe a 4-win team and maybe a 6-win team. So the Eagles no longer even need to think about Washington or Dallas. Don't even need to, part of their consciousness. They are completely focused now on Rams, Seattle, 49ers, obviously the NFC North teams, and the Buccaneers. That's all that matters now. Their division is completely irrelevant, which is crazy. I mean, it's November 3rd. It's one thing if this is middle of December. It's November 3rd. And I think Dallas, honestly, nothing summed up the Cowboys more than the beginning of this game. We'll dive into the YouTube TV situation here in a second, but once I figured out how to get the game on my television, I'm probably 30 minutes before kickoff. And Jerry is just strutting around, taking selfies with people, just yucking it up. I mean, I respect that. As someone who can be pretty introverted and want no part of just talking to people, it feels like Jerry is in that mode 24/7, 365. It's pretty easy to see why Jerry is such a good salesman. Like, the guy's in his mid 80s. He like has unlimited money. And that the juice he gets when he walks, like, that stage is his, which is also a problem, right? Because it's one thing, listen, if your owner's got a big ego, Dr. Bush used to bang chicks with the players in the training room. Like, owners do crazy stuff. I got no issue with Jerry trying to be the center of attention. He just also happens to be the general manager, right? So it's like, that'd be like the equivalent of Les Snead or Howie Roseman or Brian Gutekunst or John Lynch. Like, Jerry's acting like an actor / owner, but he also is the guy running the football operation, which is kind of crazy. And then they show the clip of him sitting with Stephen A., which is hilarious because it comes right as Ferguson fumbles. And Jerry's like, just crestfallen. And it looks like Stephen A's biting his lip, trying not to laugh in the suite. It's like, this is the Cowboys. That environment, we hear this a lot with these college jobs. Like, a lot of chefs in those kitchens, man. Got a lot of hands in the cookie jar. You got a lot of people with a lot of voices. A lot of dudes sitting on these committees with a lot of opinions. It's like it's hard to win in those situations, right? It's the best when it's streamlined. Like, Kirby Smart deals with the AD, the president, that's it. Nick Saban dealt with nobody. Howie Roseman streamlined right to Jeffrey Lurie, right? You got Jerry. Like, all these players know that, like, their coaching staff, like, how much juice do they actually have? And I think the answer is, like, not that much. Do they really, like Brian Schottenheimer, do I really need to listen to him? And I think that can be difficult. And you just kind of got the shit show in Dallas. You got Jerry making a comment before the game of, like, I have a trade ready to go in my back pocket. Who talks like that? Well, Jerry does. Jerry's just talking like he talks. And most people that are the GM are hesitant to say certain things because at the end of the day, they're not signing the checks. They don't own the buildings. They could get fired at any moment. And they don't want to piss people off in their industry, their owner, their team. They're just very, very cautious. There's no caution with Jerry. It's why he's such a great soundbite. It's why everyone runs right to him. And listen, it's not, Dak didn't play that well tonight. The receivers felt like they were lollygagging it every other route. Obviously, the fumbles, the turnovers, the offensive line was getting just worked. It felt like every night, every single snap, one of those different, Tylers on their offensive line was getting spun like a dreidel, and one of the dudes in red was all over Dak. Obviously, defensively, they don't have much, if anything. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing. If they don't hit on a blitz, someone's getting open and someone's getting open fast. So my expectations on Dallas, if their offense isn't humming, is they're going to lose every game. They're going to lose. If you tell me the Dallas Cowboys score points in the teens, it's an automatic loss. It'd be like, hey, the Cincinnati Bengals scored 25 points. I'd be like, automatic loss. They lose 100% of the games. And that's the Cowboys. But I just think there's so much going on. It's where, like, one thing is, sometimes on Dak's out routes, like, this is in a dome. There's no wind. There's no inclement weather. It's not cold. It's not like, you're blowing on your fingertips to warm them up. The weather's ideal. Like, you control the climate with the air conditioning. And his balls in some of the deep out routes would kind of float. It's like, you see some of the limitations with Dak's arm. It's a little floaty. I think there was one fourth down that had a play broken up by CeeDee Lamb, and Troy kind of came to the defense of Dak. He's like, Something made him hesitant, almost like CD didn't come out of the route with any urgency. It's like, okay, there's probably some truth to that, but also the ball just hung up in the air for an extra couple seconds that it just wouldn't with the guys with higher end arm strength. I mean, Jacoby Brissett has a better arm than Dak Prescott. Kyler Murray could throw with his eyes closed backwards and get more velocity on it. So sometimes that limitation is why is Dak throwing some huge interceptions in some big games? He throws, if the ball's not accurate, like his ball's easier to catch than Josh Allen's, right? It just is. But I would not recommend Jerry does any trades. If anything, trade players away for more picks and look for the next couple years because this team is going nowhere and it's going nowhere fast. So congrats to the Cardinals. Big win for Jacoby, and congrats on the starting gig that I'm unofficially anointing you as the starter the rest of the season. Last but not least on this game, I have not followed the details of this story at all, simply because I do not care. I'm not going to get into the weeds about Disney and Google, whatever they're arguing about, right? Obviously, both have a lot of juice. I'm probably more, I don't do that much with Disney besides consume the games that they have, right? Obviously, that'll change as I have a child. I'm sure we'll watch more Disney content. I'm more of a Google guy, Gmail, very loyal YouTube TV guy. But I don't want to overthink this. And I've always defended some of these networks, like NBC, for example. NBC is not going to be around if Peacock doesn't work. All these people need streamers. So it makes us bad when it's like, hey, you got to get Amazon Prime if you want to watch the NBA. It's like, yeah, do you not have Amazon Prime? Like, do you not have Amazon? Because if you don't, I probably don't have much in common with you. If you don't have Amazon Prime, unless you live out in rural BFE. But like most people I know in my life have access to Amazon Prime. But tonight I thought, this is the first time where I went, I'm not sticking up for one side or the other, but just get the fucking job done. Because I had no choice. Like, I have to do this for work. And I'm kind of freaking out because over the weekend, I was able to watch the college games because I have ESPN Plus, which I'm a loyal subscriber of because they have a bunch of golf content. I can watch golf tournaments throughout the year on Thursday and Friday at my desk in the background on ESPN Plus. So that's just why I have it. And I was able to watch Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas and Vanderbilt through that. Well, then I went to it tonight and it was like not working. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to watch Monday Night Football on ESPN Plus. So what are my options? Well, Hulu, and my wife loves Hulu because they have a million shows of people getting murdered. I'm like, Maria, are we sure it's healthy to watch all these shows about serial killers and murderers? She can't watch a show about like, a Saving Private Ryan or whatever. She's like, turn it off. Like, Maria, you just watched someone decapitate 7 people and spread their heads throughout 3 different states, and you can't watch, biopic on World War II. Like, but it's crazy. Women love these serial killer shows. Not for me. I don't want to see these psychopaths. But my point is, I knew we had Hulu. So I was like, okay, but we didn't have the right subscription. So we had to go sign in. We had to upgrade the subscription. It's like, this is kind of ridiculous. And the only thing that can make or create any type of urgency in these type situations is sports, because nothing else is going to drive us to like whatever. Like, no one's missing any shows. But as Monday Night Football and some of these big college football games, it would be a problem. And I'm not traveling this year because of the baby. But if I was at my mom's house, like I don't even know what we would do. So it was the first time where I went, this just sucks. And this is the type thing that I cut cable years ago because clearly there were better options and other things. But there is no disputing once upon a time, even if some people were kind of getting rat fucked on the cable bundle because they didn't watch sports and they were subsidizing people like us watching these games, it was a lot easier as a viewing experience. We all got whatever the local company was. We all got all the channels. There weren't ever disputes. And the games, unless a hurricane or a tornado or something that knocked the power out, if your power was on, you just had cable TV and you would just get the channels. And obviously those days are long gone and we are never going back. And I'm not a proponent of like, I wish we could reverse here. I'm all for moving forward, especially with technology. But it's situations like this that went, I kind of miss 2012. Just an easier time to be alive when it came to watching Monday Night Football. Uh, I do want to dive into one guy that is just zoned in right now, and that would be Howie Roseman. This guy, there's just no one like him in the NFL. I tried to figure out how many trades he has made this calendar year, but he had made so many different transactions, I couldn't even keep track. But just to give you an example of Howie Roseman in 2025, he just traded today for Jalen Phillips, gave up a third rounder, the pass rusher from uh, from Miami that Fangio had worked with a couple years ago, and I think he had like 6.5 or 7 sacks that year. Obviously, Vic would be on board with it, but the Eagles need pass rush. They just convinced Brandon Graham to come out of retirement. They trade for him. How he treats football like GMs treat baseball teams, right? Most GMs in the NFL do not operate this way. Now, is it because their coaches aren't huge believers in constant change? Is it because they don't have the cojones? Is it because their owner limits their ability to trade assets? I don't know. But Howie, who has more juice than any other GM in the entire NFL, is constantly trading and upgrading his team. And if you're a fan, you can't ask for anything more. They signed in March this year during free agency, a couple days after the start. They signed tight end Harrison Bryant. In August, they trade Bryant to the Houston Texans for John Mechie. Earlier last week, they traded Mechie for Carter, the DB from the Jets that Joe Douglas once drafted, on top of trading for Jair Alexander all last week. And then today they trade for Jalen Phillips. He is just constantly making moves. It is never tolerated like, we're good. They do not think like that. How can we upgrade? What do we have to do? And they're just coming off a Super Bowl. It would be easy to be like, it might not be our year. We're already paying a lot of money. Let's just see what happens. And this gets back to the expectation and the standard that's set by the owner, because he's the one that greenlights all of this. So when you see a lot of these other teams unwilling to ever do anything or not making moves when they should, it's an organizational philosophy. And Howie has been empowered. And here's the other thing. Howie doesn't have to, he has to work with the coaching staff, right? Obviously, like Nick and the coordinators. But at the end of the day, he's the boss when it comes to the roster. That is not the case for most of these teams. Like John Lynch just can't do that, right? Les Snead just can't do that, especially in the middle of the season. If their coaches say, no, I'm not really feeling that, it's not going to happen, even if it would be the right move. Because personnel people aren't as emotional about stuff. They're actually not as close, even though, especially when you work in the office, you're there on the daily grind. You're there early, they're staying late, at practice, in the cafeteria with everybody. You're helping, working hand in hand with everybody during the season. But there is, because you're not on a daily basis in the meeting rooms, there is almost a detachment from the players that can be healthy and help you see the big picture, where it's hard. If you're a position coach, your relationship with an individual is just different. And sometimes they can be too close to the sun to go, yeah, we should probably cut this guy. Or this guy isn't good enough. This is not going to work out. Because that is always being asked in Philadelphia. And think about this. When you watch Jerry Jones today, roaming around that sideline 20 minutes before the game, taking selfies, hanging out with Stephen A. Smith, that's their Howie Roseman. So how is Jerry Jones, who's a great businessman, and I'm sure if you want, to strike oil and get some of those things in the ground and have one of those bad boys hits, you would want Jerry to be the guy. But if I'm building a football team, if I'm making moves, I mean, we've talked about this for the last couple of years with Jerry. It's like, Jerry, remember a couple of years ago, he's like, we're going to make a big move, and then nothing happened. So he's competing against Howie Roseman. That's his competition. Like think of the advantage Jeffrey Lurie has. He's not doing any of that. Yet that Jerry has to sign off on everything because he's the general manager. And he's adamant, I'm never giving that up. Think of the disadvantage the Cowboys are at that ever since Jeffrey Lurie has inserted Howie into full power once he kicked Chip Kelly to the curb, they've been to 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them, and have a team that's going to be right back in the mix in 2025 and definitely beyond because that's how they operate. And the Cowboys just never quite know what to do. A couple years ago, they're giving CD and Dak unlimited money. This year, they trade Micah Parsons. And I'm not against any of these moves in a vacuum. I think they gave Dak a little too much money, but regardless, I just don't think they view the team building prospect or process and just the philosophical belief and the ability to adapt and always be changing. The Eagles have such a big advantage. Such a big advantage. I see it right now. 15 years ago, the San Francisco Giants were about to rattle off 3 out of 5 World Series. And 15 years later, they don't have a snowball's chance in hell because they're fucking with the Dodgers. I love Buster Posey. He's one of my favorite players ever. How is he supposed to compete with Andrew Friedman and that bankroll? Hint, he can't. It's not a fair fight. Just like the Cowboys versus the Eagles in 2027 present. It's just not a fair fight. And it starts with Howie. Speaking of another guy that's just pretty dialed, I was thinking about this today. Actually, before we dive into John Schneider, I do need to tell you really quick about my friends because listen, do you want to go to one of these games? I've actually never been to a Seahawks game. I did go to a University of Washington game years ago. They were renovating the stadium. But if you want to go to one of these NFL games, my friends, my partners, GameTime, they got you covered. So if you want to get a pair of tickets, you can get into a NFL game for as cheap as $100. And the amount that you see when you're searching, just whoever you want to see, you're a Chiefs fan, a Bills fan, a Ravens fan, a Seahawks fan, a Rams fan, Rams Niners this week. Do you want to go to Levi Stadium? Been to a lot of games there. You type it in. Whatever the price is that you see on the app, just download that Game Time app. That is the price you will pay. There's no hidden fees. There's no pop-up, extra fees that are added once you're going to check out. The price you see is the price you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying professional football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Download the Game Time app today. I was thinking watching that game last night, which I knew that the Dan Quinn left him in the game too long was going to be a thing. You could see that coming from a mile away, even though no one gets yanked in that spot. It's just a shitty outcome. And he wore it today. He's like, I regret doing that, but you're going to take him out of the game. If anything, you should regret the play call. He shouldn't be handling the ball. But either way, Seattle beat the crap out of him. And, Howie gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so. You could argue that John Schneider's, not just willingness, but ability to move Russell Wilson changed the course of their franchise forever. Because they not only got multiple picks back, and I mean, through those picks, they got starting tackle, they got Witherspoon, who's a stud, they got Boy Mafe, who actually I was reading might get traded tomorrow to then use to get a bigger trade. I could see them sniffing around on Max Crosby, to be honest with you. But I just think John Schneider's trade of Russell Wilson might be as important, and we'll see. I guess drafting Russell Wilson helped them win a Super Bowl, so they'd have to win a Super Bowl. So that personnel move is as important as any John's ever made. But you could say the move of trading him, because typically when you're in those situations, like you kind of go down with the ship with a guy like that. And they weren't just able to pivot off him because Russell Wilson is a worse player than guys that we constantly, rip on their contract and their status like Tua and Kyler. He can't hold those guys jock. He traded him for 2 first-round picks. But it's not just the first-round picks. It's the clearing up of the cap space. So then several years later, you had much more money to deal with. They're able to sign guys like Sam Darnold, extend guys like Leonard Williams. That move was a catalyst for the Seattle team we're seeing now. And I think sometimes, and that's a good example of, you got to make bold moves. And when he made that trade, we didn't know Russell was bad yet. I thought that was the type move that was going to get everyone fired. And it did. It just turned out it was everyone in Denver. Some except the GM who somehow survived and is now Sean Payton's right hand man. But every other coaching staff, a member of the coaching staff, got canned. So I just I don't think we spend enough time talking and thinking about the moment that John Schneider traded Russell Wilson because it just changed the course of their franchise. And they went with Geno Smith, and now they have Sam Darnold, who is just one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I just think this Seattle and Rams thing. I mean, if Seattle plays Arizona this week, who obviously is coming off a road Monday night game, so they're going to get back. I mean, they probably won't land at Arizona until 3 or 4 in the morning. And the Rams are favored against the 49ers in Levi's. Obviously, the 49ers lost another guy today. So I think we're going to learn a lot. And I think Eagles, Packers. I haven't even looked at the schedule yet, but I think Eagles, Packers this week. So, uh, or maybe that's next week, but keep an eye on that. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Other than that, we did have Tucker Kraft tore his ACL, which is a massive blow for the Green Bay Packers. That's one of those that's like, I don't know if you overcome. Now, I think when you look around the league, a lot of guys have gotten hurt. Uh, but that's a crippling loss. And I get a lot of DMs, obviously, for the mailbag, and Packers have a lot of fans. It does feel like there's some momentum and some negativity surrounding LaFleur with the Green Bay game, or excuse me, the Browns game and the Carolina game. Those are type games you lose that if you get bounced in the first round can cost you your job. And there's been a lot of pressure on Matt LaFleur. Even the new president, Carmen Policy's son Ed, talked about it. Like, listen, this is a this is a big year for these guys, right? They're in. This is when you would get your contract extended at the end of this year. So once you make that move for Micah Parsons, the pressure is on, and the games like that are ones that lose you a lot of equity and lose you a lot of equity fast. The 49ers drafted Mykel Williams from Georgia, just this massive defensive lineman. He's probably ideally like a pass rushing interior defensive lineman. He's not a great edge rusher, but he's a beast. He's like 6'5", 290, 80 pounds, long arms. He should be a really high end starter in the NFL. I don't know if he's ever going to be like an elite player, but you watch guys like Buckner and Armstead and Calais Campbell, like he's that type hybrid body type that should just be an impact. He was a 5-star blue chipper. Tore his ACL today, or I guess yesterday. And the 49ers kind of knew it. Kyle kind of alluded to it yesterday. I just don't think we've ever seen anything like this. The amount of injuries. I mean, Purdy, Kyle admitted, not only is it a turf toe, which we've already known, but it's not only not improving, like he's not good to go. And this is not something that's ever going to get better. I mean, there's a chance Brock Purdy, they gave $180 million guaranteed and is going to start 2 games for the season. That's on the table. George Kittle missed a huge chunk of the game or the season after game 1. All their offensive linemen are banged up, and defensively, I mean, Bosa's tore his ACL, Mykel Williams tore his ACL, Fred Warner's ankle shattered. It's like I just don't. I think it's borderline insane. They're 6-3. It does feel like a little house of cards, and they're in a really really tough spot this weekend against the Rams, and that's why this trade deadline, which if you're listening to this on in the afternoon, it's probably already passed. I think you have to be very honest with yourself, right? How good you are, because there are always going to be trades. Like if you are willing to give up a high enough pick, you can pull off a lot of players in the NFL, right? But if you give a second round pick and then all of a sudden you miss that 7 seed and that pick is pick 17, well, now that's a pretty high second round pick. The Washington Commanders are a good example. I commended Adam Peters for doing this because there weren't a lot of good players in free agency. And he didn't want to use his free agency money, which he had a lot of, to overpay guys because that's what you have to do in free agency. So he used draft capital to buy guys that were already under contract. Like Deebo Samuel, $15 million, 5th-round pick. Laramie Tunzel, I get my starting left tackle. I give up a third in 2025 he gave up a second in 2026, which obviously you got to pay a lot for a starting left tackle who's a good player, and a pick in a year. Like if I trade you a 2026 second round pick in February of 2025, that pick is valued less because it's a year away. So on the value chart, it's typically a round lower, right? Like if I give you a third round pick in a couple years, I don't view that as the same as a third round pick now. It's like time value money. The problem for Washington is if you win 4 or 5 games, which is clearly on the table after some of their injuries and obviously Jaden being out for who knows, maybe the rest of the season, that pick could be like pick 37. And at the time when you pull those off, you just pray you're not in those situations. But sometimes you are. It's like when they traded for Matt Stafford and had to give up some first round picks. And then a year later, they had a bunch of injuries, and that pick was a top 10 pick. And the Detroit Lions were able to use that to get guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta. Right? Sometimes when you get a high pick, ask Seattle, and that team sucks like the Denver Broncos, you get Devin Witherspoon at pick 5. So, and it's the same with like giving up a second round pick. Well, if you suck, that second round pick, instead of being pick 50, is now pick 36. And Google some of the guys that go in the 30s. Sometimes it's Hall of Famers. You get high-end starters there. So it's really, really risky. And I think a lot of people go back and forth. And that's where I think Howie, once you've won a couple Super Bowls, Belichick got to the point where it's like he didn't care. He just did. And for a long time when he had Brady, most stuff kind of worked. And if it didn't work, whatever. We just pivoted. Howie's kind of in that mold too. It's like the equity speaks for itself. Just won the Super Bowl. Won one in 2017. We went to another one a couple years ago. Like, I've proven I know what I'm doing. It's football. These are human beings. I'm going to miss on some, but we're going to make full speed fucking decisions. Some people throughout the league, like, don't have the equity to just give up a second and third round pick. Because if it does blow up in their face, then their ass is on the chopping block. Howie's not thinking about, like, job security doesn't even cross his mind when he's just literally doing whatever it takes to try to help the team become better. That's what Bill did for 2 decades. And that enables you to actually operate from a position of strength. Because if you have conviction, you're like, yeah, I'll pay for that. We need this. Where I think it's easier for other people to talk yourself out of it. It's like, well, I might need that second round pick, and if this blows up in my face, I'm going to look like an idiot, and the fans will be on me, and who knows, maybe I won't get a contract extension in 2 years. So I think one thing's going to be fascinating is, like, does any player go for a second round pick? Because if we get a guy of that level, that would be pretty eye-opening. I would guess no. Jalen Phillips for a third round pick feels right about the line. Every once in a while, though, you get, like, Christian McCaffrey's been traded for a second, a third, and a fourth round pick. Right? If tomorrow someone's traded for Jalen Waddle, they gave up a second round pick. Which I think sometimes with wide receivers, you're like, well, we would like him. He's under contract, but couldn't I find a guy in the draft in the second round who can do that for way cheaper? And I think these are the conversations you're constantly having with yourself, trying to balance the future and now. Because I'll tell you this, the head coach, the coordinators, your star players, all they care about is the next couple months. They don't give a shit about the draft. Most of these coaches haven't watched a snap of college football. Not a snap. Because on Saturday mornings, they're either traveling with the team, and you're just not really watching much, right? You're traveling, you're in an airplane, you get down, you have some meetings, you eat, you go to bed. And if you're at home, you do some walkthroughs in the morning, you go home, you spend time with your family because you haven't seen them literally all week. So they got no clue. They don't know Ty Simpson from Bart Simpson. But your front office does. And that's where their influence and their juice can help these guys. Like, hey, this is a loaded class at wide receiver. And, if this administration, we're not going anywhere, I think we can hold off on that. And that's where you have to have a good communication and a good rapport with the guy you work with, because sometimes you got to talk them off the ledge. Like, I really need this guy. It's like, I don't know if that's the best idea. I don't know if that's the best idea. And you never know. I mean, that's part of, you know, doing deals is some work out and some are just a major flop and absolutely disastrous when you factor in compensation, production, everything combined. But uh, I think we're really going to see in the next, 12 hours, at least from recording this, it's 10:15 at night. Uh, who thinks they're really good. And I think a lot of teams will get cold feet because it's so wide open right now. Have a great night.